Welcome to Tips from Trestle. This podcast is dedicated to discussing the senior living industry with a unique focus on food, hospitality, and leadership. I'm your host, Aaron Fish. As a 25-year veteran of the hospitality industry, I've focused my work on creating exceptional experiences for the customers we serve. My goal for this podcast? Educate, inform, and inspire leaders in senior living to bring food and hospitality to the front of mind in our industry. Let's bring the innovative and passionate spirit of hospitality to everything that we do for the residents, families, guests, and employees we serve each and every day. So what are we waiting for? Let's get to it. Today on Tips from Trestle, I'm joined by Joffe. Joffe has worked with several operators as an executive director. Being an experienced administrator, he has dealt firsthand with the challenges that can occur within a community's dining services department. As the senior living business consultant for QSR Automations, Connor works with operators in the senior living industry to achieve operational excellence by implementing tools in the front and back of house that simplify workflows, improve food quality, and optimize staffing. Using their ConnectSmart platform allows staff to spend more time on the details and operators to make data-driven decisions that simplify processes while simultaneously improving the experience for the residents at each meal. Connor, thanks for joining me today on Tips from Trestle.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Aaron. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, so we've talked a few times about QSR. I'd love for you to tell listeners kind of what QSR does. What you do is unique in the industry from what I can tell, but I know you guys are experts at what you do. So kind of let us know what you guys do and how you can support senior living operators.
Yeah, definitely. So QSR started about 25 years ago. We are the pioneers of the digital kitchen. We were the first KDS out on the market. Today, we produce a few different platforms. Our ConnectSmart platforms include ConnectSmart Kitchen, which is our back of the house automation system, ConnectSmart Host, which is our front of the house management, and ConnectSmart Go, which helps facilitate off-premise ordering. Our system, ConnectSmart, seamlessly integrates with the front and back of the house for operators to create a more efficient operation within their restaurant. ConnectSmart is fully customizable. It integrates with over 75 point of sales. So it seamlessly integrates with your entire technology stack within the kitchen.
So you say you integrate with 75 different point of sales. So do you guys offer point of sale as a service, or how do you guys manage that?
Yeah, so we actually don't offer a point of sale service. That's why we integrate in with 75 plus. So what our bread and butter is the kitchen automation. So once you put the order in within the POS, it sends it through our system and it automates it to create a calmer kitchen, to decrease stress for staff and increase consistency for the meals that you're putting out.
Okay. So since you're not a point of sale company, it makes me curious. I have some thoughts on what makes a good point of sale, what makes a bad point of sale. What have you guys found from your vantage point of working with all these different operators, point of sale operators, on what can be good features, bad features, things that you found successful? I'm curious on what your guys' take on that might be, or your take on that.
Yeah, definitely. So I think it definitely depends on your operations. Every operator runs their dining department and their culinary experience quite a bit differently. So I think it definitely depends on how you are doing your operations. And that is one of the main reasons we integrate in with so many different point of sales, because everyone's restaurant or cafe operates differently. We want to be able to provide the customization and the compatibility for any type of operator.
So do you find that senior living operators are using point of sale kind of in its most basic form, or do you have people that you're working with in the industry that are being a little more broad in their use? I can think about like when when you get a point of sale for like a restaurant, for example, there is, a number of like features. There's the reservation systems, there's the seating, there's, customer management as far as, keeping track of preferences and discounts and, even like points and things. And so you can get a number of really cool features with point of sale. Do you find that senior living operators are looking for those kinds of features, or are they really wanting a tool to help manage their order process?
Yeah, I think for the most part, operators that are using the hospitality focused point of sale systems are using the more basic features. And the reason I say that is because most senior living operators don't run true checks per se, like a restaurant does.
Mhm.
It's more of keeping track of points or keeping track of how many meals per day and things of that instance. So I think the main way that operators are using point of sales currently is in the more basic form. But then again, there are multiple senior living focused and healthcare focused point of sales. And I think those are being used a little more robustly because it is aimed more towards that senior living. And a lot of them are point of sales in the sense of that they're keeping track of transactions, but they're not physically running a credit card or doing the billing on their behalf.
Got it. So there's not really a whole lot. So you would say mostly kind of managing the order process, but maybe some of these healthcare oriented ones, integrate with like, their electronic medical records and systems of that nature.
Yeah, definitely. I think integration is a huge thing right now. It's a big focus. As I've heard at almost every conference I've been to this year, everyone is super excited about adopting different technologies.
Yeah.
But one of the biggest complaints is, well, I have 20 different technologies that are all doing different things, but they don't talk to one another. So
Yeah.
that is one of the awesome things about ConnectSmart, and one of the great things about being able to integrate in with other vendors, such as the medical records, such as the point of sale, and things of that nature, because it provides that flexibility. And then if you ever are looking to change a vendor for a certain type of thing, then that integration is able to transfer over. So you're not retraining staff on everything. It's just retraining staff on one aspect of the process.
Got it. Yeah, no, that definitely makes a lot of sense because, there's a ton of technology companies in the space right now. Technology, like you said, is a huge focus. I really think COVID pushed a lot of operators that way because we all, when I was in operations, we all had to take a big step back and reevaluate what we did. And, when you're not able to physically interact with people, you got to come up with solutions. And that that virtual connection became super important. And I think a lot of operators realize that. So, one of the things you just mentioned, the integration aspect, I'm curious to know how a system like what you guys offer, to try and be unbiased here. I know you guys have competitors in the space, but kind of thinking broadly, how does a system like yours, how can it improve that integration? And then how does that translate into senior living?
Yeah, definitely. So I think specific to QSR, the integration is mostly within the kitchen and with billing slash resident information.
Okay.
For example, on the front of house side of things, being able to go up to the host station, being able to go up to the host station and automatically when you walk up there, being able to the host being able to see your preferences, your favorite drink, your favorite meal, when your special anniversaries are, or things of that nature, can really improve that guest experience. And we can do that through integrations without having to add extra work and additional information needed on the staff side.
Okay. Yeah. And I mean, I think that, one of the things that I always talk about when I talk to clients, when I talk to operators, when I'm presenting even, I'm a very big proponent of, it's not just a product, but it's an experience that we have to provide.
Exactly.
And what you're talking about, I think, fits right in with that. You're talking about ways to take what is a basic service of putting a meal in front of residents and turn it into an experience, because you have kind of all these little touch points. And so, as we think about, technology and kind of how we can maximize it, I'm curious as to how you guys view the advantages of digitizing the kitchen in the back of the house. From my vantage point, I could definitely, there's the operator in me gets excited about, touch screens and where information goes and collecting data and how you can parse all that out. But what do you guys find when you're working with operators that gets them going, and what gets them to want to actually digitize the back of the house?
Yeah, I think one of the main things that is pushing operators to implement additional technologies are, one, the staffing crisis, as some are calling it. So being able to provide different technologies and tools for staff members to more effectively do their job, not necessarily eliminating labor, but more effectively allocating that labor. And in turn, I believe that improves the guest experience, right? If residents aren't seeing staff run around like a chicken with their head cut off, and they see them enjoying their job, and the staff have more time to spend having face-to-face time with the residents, then that improves the guest experience. And I think COVID has definitely pushed that a lot. And with the technologies, you're able to get a lot of data behind your operations at a glance, even if you're not at the community itself. So having that transparency and that insight into your operations not only benefits the operator, but it in turn benefits the staff and the guests as well.
Yeah. It's funny you bring up the face-to-face interaction, right? Because after 22, 24 months of, you got to be in your room, you got to wear masks, you got to wear eye shield, just all of the protocols we had to go through. I think there's definitely a large desire for that personalization and that interaction. And you compound that with, like you mentioned, the staffing crisis or the staffing issues we have of, we can't get people. So how do we bridge that? The idea of efficiency really makes a ton of sense. How can we put the contact points back where they need to be versus a place where they're less useful?
Yeah.
So I'm curious, this is just one of those things that we're having a technology conversation. And every time I have a technology conversation with anybody, I always get asked the question about robots. Do you guys integrate with any of those kinds of systems? Have you explored that? I guess I'm curious as to what your guys' experience has been on that front, given that obviously there is some opportunity there, I would think, in the space.
Yeah, definitely. So we are always looking to innovate and get on to the next biggest and best thing. We definitely have looked into it, and we're starting discussions with different robotic companies. Some of our resellers that are in the hospitality and even the senior living industry are starting to offer the robots. One of the really cool integrations we just finished and announced actually was with the Coca-Cola remix machines.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, or freestyle machine. Is it
freestyle? Yeah, the freestyle machine.
Sorry.
Yes.
Yeah, the freestyle machines, the ones where you have just about 1 million options of what you can get out of it.
Yeah.
So they just rolled out a new one specifically for back of the house, made mostly for drive-throughs. And we just actually wrote an integration with that, so that once the order is put into the POS and it's sent through, that the freestyle machine is actually just going to kick out that drink. No, a human does not have to press a single button on it. So it'll kick out a customized drink. So things of that nature, we're always looking for different partners, different people to integrate with. And we're able to do things of that nature with different partners.
Yeah, I could definitely, that's such a cool example of like a touch point that is completely, it's valuable for the customer, but it's not nearly as valuable as that 2 minutes of being table side, of actually physically interacting with a customer, and I would imagine that as a part of that, you're also collecting data on the orders and what's popular, what's not, in helping kind of maximize the efficiency and the product use of that machine. Is that
Yeah, and
something that you guys really focus on?
yeah, definitely. I think consistency, accuracy are two of our big words that I use millions of times a day, because those are the two of the most important things with operators, but it's two of the most important things for guests and residents as well. So yeah, you hit it spot on. Our product can definitely help with decreasing waste, making sure that you're ordering accurate amounts of things, because we're able to say, hey, you sold this amount in this amount of time. Here's your peak times. You're getting on average X amount of this entree ordered at each dinner. So that way you're able to be more flexible and nimble, but also at the same time have everything ready when it's supposed to be ready and when it should be ready.
Yeah, no, I think that having that information is so important, and that's one of the things I was curious to chat with you a little bit about is how operators are going to maximize this data, right? Because there are so many, I think this is something that people miss when they think about food service, right? It's, you know, we all think about, it's more of an art than a science, right? Like where the chef, you think about the Food Network, Cooking Channel chefs that are making the meals and the plates, and it's all an art, right? It's all about the plate presentation, but there is so much diet, so much data, and so much science involved with doing it. The kitchen is a assembly line basically, and so treating it that way and collecting all that data is can be so valuable. And so what are some of the things that you're seeing operators do with the data that you guys are able to collect, versus maybe just using a traditional point of sale by
Yeah,
itself?
definitely. Yeah, so I think one of the biggest things is being able to provide data about the busiest times, most popular orders, and things of that nature, because that helps manage and make more informed decisions regarding staffing, regarding when you're cooking, when you're cooking an item, or when it's going to get out to the resident themselves. So an example I like to use is that if you order a cheeseburger and fries, for example, the cheeseburger takes quite a bit longer than a order of fries to cook if you're cooking it made to order. And so what you don't want is the fries to be done before the burger is, and then it goes to die under the heat lamps, right?
Right.
So being able to have the data of, hey, this is how long a typical burger is taking to come from the POS to the production line or to the expo line, then that is almost invaluable, because that way you can staff more appropriately. You can make sure that your efficiencies are in place, or maybe that item, if it's taking too long to be cooked, then you're able to remove it and swap it out with something that would be more efficient and more better suited, I guess you should say, for your menu at that time.
You bring up something that I've always been intrigued about with the idea of digitizing a kitchen, right? So a typical point of sale standalone system, you're going to have the ability to manage menus and you'll be able to track usage and things like that. But you got tickets in the kitchen and there's a lot of paper, and I'm not going to go on the whole eco tirade of let's save paper, right? But the ability to digitize the ticket ordering, the ticket system in the kitchens, seems like there's a huge advantage from a training aspect, from a management aspect, and the example you gave of the timing of things, I think probably plays some into that as well. Am I correct?
Yeah, definitely. We like to call it delayed routing. And what I mean by that is, when the order is placed, you typically have everything sent out at once. And if you're on paper tickets, or you're writing it on tickets and throwing it up on the expo line, then you have someone standing at the expo line screaming out, hey, I need 10 of these, 5 of these, 3 of these.
Mm.
But implementing a system such as ours, what it does is it removes the need for the expo to be doing that. So you have screens at each station, and with those screens, you're only going to see what you're working on at that given time. And any modifications are going to be labeled differently, or colored differently, or show up differently. Or if something is taking longer than it typically does, you're able to put a rush on it. So the person working the grill can say, hey, I need to rush this cheeseburger ASAP, right?
Right.
And by doing that, it creates consistency is one of the biggest things. So the cooks working the line and the chefs working the line are able to focus on what they're doing without having to run around and say, oh, I'm cooking this burger right now. I need to run and start the fries, or I need to do this and that. And it also helps eliminate the need for batch cooking, so everything can truly be fresh, made to order.
Yeah, that last piece that you just mentioned for me is probably the biggest opportunity. There are operators out there that are starting to realize this, and they're, that are making that change. Um, I think there's still such a huge opportunity because a lot of people get in the mindset of, well, we've got 40 residents today, so let's make 30, 20, 10, 10, and 5, and let's just manage the food costs that way. I saw a report this morning where it was from the National Restaurant Association, and they did an update, and it was a 16.1% inflation on food costs in the industry, right? And so when you think that you're getting 15, 16% more expense or no more food, like how do you manage that better? In the first place, for me, is the inefficiency of batch cooking. And so I think having some sort of digital system that, like you said, does the routing and lets you know, hey, I can cook 90% of my menu to order, improves, like you said, efficiency, quality, satisfaction. There's just so many areas of opportunity with all of that.
Yeah, definitely. I couldn't agree more. And I think batch cooking is sometimes a necessary evil, because there's sometimes that you have to cook 6-ounce pieces of chicken in bulk almost. But one of the great things about our system in particular is that we have what we call bin management. What bin management does is it says, hey, you have 5 things on your menu right now that use that 6-ounce piece of chicken. And so you can cook 10, 15 of them, but not 40, 50 of them, right? That's not what you don't want to do. So with the bin management, what it does is once you've sold 6 or 7 of those 10 pieces of chicken or entrees that use that piece of chicken, then it'll say, hey, you've sold this amount. You historically have sold this amount more in any given meal. So let's throw X amount more on. So that way you're batch cooking, but miniaturely batch cooking, if that makes sense.
You're making batch cooking more efficient, because instead of it being a guesstimate or looking at historical data and plus 5% or whatever, it's truly down to the piece or the item for creating that. So
yeah,
that's
yeah,
go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead. What I was going to say was that, and it also eliminates the need for residents to order hours or days ahead of time, right? I know when I was running different communities as the executive director, I would know maybe a day or two ahead of time sometimes what resident X, Y, or Z was going to order, because they placed their orders ahead of time to make sure that we have enough food for everyone, right? So it also eliminates that, because residents change their mind and they have the right to change their mind. This is their home, and our job is to make their dining experience the best it possibly can be. So it also eliminates, in my mind, the need for that, but also doesn't increase your waste, which without the digitization of the kitchen and the front and back of the house, you're able to do that.
Yeah, no, in my mind, it's the very simple, and this is the 40,000 foot version of this, or the statement of it, blanket statement is, it's just the restaurantization, if you want to use, that's not a good word,
I couldn't agree more.
But it really is. It's like, okay, we're running restaurants, right? Like the idea that we're running a dining room or we're running, that just doesn't make any sense. It's a restaurant. They're coming in, they're ordering. You understand the day parts, you understand the flows, and having all of this digital access and the data behind all of that lets you manage it more efficiently. I think that's all really, really, really awesome. I wanted to ask you, we've got about 3 or 4 minutes left. I was curious, you mentioned something about ordering ahead, which made me think about like room service and like meal deliveries and that kind of thing. How does your system work with all of that? Do you have that kind of separated out? Is it just part of the way you route things? Kind of talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah, definitely. So I think COVID kind of threw the senior living industry on its head with to-go ordering and
Mhm.
room service. It was very much so frowned upon prior to COVID,
Yeah.
but it's now a new normal, and I think it's here to stay. Yeah, the answer to your question simply is yes. Our system does an unbelievable job of help facilitating that. The way we do that is through our ConnectSmart Go platform. And what ConnectSmart Go does is it connects our kitchen and our host with the rest of the world, I should say. And what I mean by that is if instead of a resident having to call down to make a reservation or to call down to check on when their order is going to be ready, the host can see a glimpse of what's going on to the back of the house. Back of house can see a glimpse of what's going on in the front of the house. And we're able to communicate via SMS text or things of that nature in widgets that update a resident on their wait list, their reservation, or their to-go order. And I think communication is one of the biggest things in senior living.
Yep.
If you have open communication, 9 times out of 10, residents are going to be satisfied, right?
Yeah.
So being able to shoot them a text message saying, hey, your food is going to be ready in 15 minutes, or hey, here's a reminder, you have a reservation down in the main dining room for 7:00 p.m. Or even just being able to go up to the host stand and they could say, hey, your order has been sent in and it is on the assembly line right now, and things of that nature. And another big thing that COVID has really brought to light is order ready screens. So having a screen in a bistro or a pickup area that simply says resident X's order is ready or order number ready. And once you pick it up, it takes it off the screen. So you don't necessarily have to have it staffed all the time. You can just go pick up your order and the resident can see right there that it's going to be ready or that it's in progress.
Yeah, no, you're so right about the communication piece. If I had a nickel for every time miscommunication caused me grief when I was working in a community or in an operation, I would be on a beach somewhere.
Yeah, same. I couldn't agree more. And I think senior living, dining gets the most mouth from the residents, but also the most praise, because it's one of the few things that every resident, no matter their capabilities or why they're living in a senior living community, looks forward to each day. And it gives them a sense of purpose. It gives them a sense of community. And it's all about the experience for them.
Connor, this has been such a great conversation. We're kind of right at time. So will you share with the listeners how they can get in contact with you to learn more about QSR and digitizing their back of house kitchen operations?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. First off, thank you, Aaron, for having me today. Best way to get a hold of me would be to get onto our website, QSRautomations.com. At the bottom of almost every page, there is a button to request a demo or get more information. And that's also a great way to get a little bit more insight into the ConnectSmart platform. Another way you can get a hold of me is by email. My email is cjoffe, Joffe, at QSRautomations.com. Or you can give me a call at 502-715-6177.
Awesome. Well, Connor, like I said, this has been a fascinating conversation. This whole digitization of the back of the house, bringing everything to the 21st century. It just fascinates me, and I know it's so needed. And so I just thank you for coming on and talking with me about what you guys do and how you're improving the senior living industry.
Yeah, no, it's my pleasure, and I appreciate you having me on today. I'm super passionate about senior living and look forward to working with more operators to improve the dining experience for the residents and staff.
Love it. Thanks so much, Connor, for joining us on Tips from Trestle today. So there you have it, another one in the books. Thanks again, everybody, for listening. You can follow or direct message me on LinkedIn, where I'm always commenting and posting about food, hospitality, and leadership for the senior living industry. Or give me a follow on Twitter at AHFish or Instagram at AaronHFish. And check out my company, Trestle Hospitality Concepts, at www.trestlehospitalityconcepts.com. I'm your host, Aaron Fish, And this has been another episode of Tips from Trestle.